Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to half give you an overview, half read through the details within this article. By the way, the article is a few days old and you might be aware of this subject. If you are, probably no point in watching this, but if this is a new subject for you, then stick around. I'll start off by giving you an overview. Essentially in Seattle, and for those that aren't aware, Seattle is a city within Washington State, within America, United States. Within Seattle, the police department have essentially acknowledged, I think would be the right word, that they will no longer be pursuing or investigating any new cases that involve adult sexual assaults. Yeah, that's right. No, I'm not kidding. They have stated that they will not be pursuing or investigating any new cases of sexual assaults whereby the victims are adults. What the hell? Why is that? Well, the simple answer is due to a lack of funds, a lack of staff, a lack of resources. They have got to the end of their rope, as it were. They do not feel capable in handling any more new cases in regards to sexual assaults. Now, they will make exceptions, certainly for sexual assaults that involve children. They will investigate. They will do what they can. But they're basically throwing their hands up in the air and saying, hey guys, we've got too many existing cases to work on. We can't handle any more cases. Not unless you give us more police officers, not unless you give us more funding. But as it stands, there's only so much that their department can do. Pretty shocking, isn't it? And as I say, I can read through some of the details in a moment to clarify that, and there is a link in the description. But fuck me dead. I mean, isn't this a real sign of clown worldery for these guys to say, yeah, no, we can't do any more investigating. If you guys want to commit sexual assault, come over to Seattle. That's the place to do it. As long as it's with adults, you'll be fine over the next period. I mean, it's utter craziness. At the same time, though, it's kind of reasonable, isn't it? Like, any organization, be it a government organization, a privately owned organization, whatever the aims of that organization is, any organization has its own limitations within it, which are largely going to be determined by a number of different things, but I would imagine not least the number of staff that they have, the funding that they have, etc., etc. And if it is the case that these guys simply don't have the required amount of staff, don't have the required amount of funding, then yeah, it's kind of believable that they can indeed hit their limit, So, I mean, it's not a good situation at all. And I don't think these guys are saying, hey, look, this is a good thing. We want to do this in the future, not be able to investigate. That's not what they're saying. But they are saying, hey, look, due to staff shortages across the departments, the various police departments, their hands are tied. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you just tell them to wave a magic wand and figure out how to do things, or do you throw money at them? Do you train new staff? I don't know. It seems to me to be a losing battle. You've got a lot of people in politics that are pushing towards defunding of police, and you've got a lot of blue flu. You've got a lot of police officers across the United States, I believe, that have been leaving the police force because they feel that they are not supported by the higher ups. So you have a lot of people retiring from the police force. And then I'm going to throw this extra little bit on top of that, and I'm going to be a little bit vague. And the reason I'm going to be vague is because there's a little bit of controversy with what I'm about to say. But I feel that there are medical conditions floating out there, perhaps of a various nature. Perhaps I'm referring directly to COVID itself. Perhaps I'm not. But seemingly there are a lot of staff shortages out there across multiple industries. Why would we think the emergency services would be any different? The police force, firefighters, all of these guys, ambulance drivers in particular, these fields are short-staffed. Teachers, pretty much any field out there is short-staffed. Why is that? Must be COVID. Maybe it's something else, don't know. But to me, this is a problem that the government in Seattle, in Washington State, in America, in other countries, this kind of thing will occur as well. The governments aren't prepared to fix these issues. They're not going to be able to. You know, if you've got an increase in crime and you've got a decrease in law enforcement officers, I mean, it's untenable to expect good things. Anyway, I've ranted. I said I'd give you an overview, and I've done all of that. So I'm now just going to read through some of the aspects within the article. Seattle Police's sexual assault and child abuse unit staff has been so depleted that it stopped assigning to detectives this year new cases with adult victims, according to an internal memo. Law enforcement agencies here and across the country have grappled with labour shortages during the pandemic and since the 2020 protests following the murder of George Floyd. Was he murdered? Oh yeah, apparently he was, yeah. I thought he had died of a 5 times lethal fentanyl dose, but no, he was murdered in broad daylight. I don't know, something like that. Since the 2020 peaceful protests. But Seattle's failure to staff its sexual assault unit stands out from other local police departments and raises questions about the Seattle Police Department's priorities. I don't know what that's suggesting. Is it suggesting that there are plenty of officers within the police department, but they're not choosing to enter into the sexual assault department? Is that it? Is that what this article is suggesting? I've got no idea whether or not that's true or not. I can't imagine that it is. I don't know. I'm coming from a point of ignorance, but I would have thought that the sexual assault department would be an area of interest, perhaps particularly for female officers, would be my guess, but what the hell do I know? I don't know. Now the department's lack of attention to its sexual assault unit is threatening the viability of cases as delayed investigations and evidence collection possibly hinder their outcomes. Yeah, so they're saying that this department, sexual assault department, is heavily underfunded, and that's going to screw up not only new cases from being investigated at all, but is likely to have adverse effects on existing cases. They're not going to have the resources to maintain the case, to keep up with the evidence and to investigate them adequately, etc., etc. The resources apparently don't exist. Cases involving children and adult cases that had a suspect in custody were being prioritized, but essentially the sexual assault unit just had too few detectives. And that's pretty much what this article is telling us, pretty much. As I say, there is a little bit of pushback. Assistant Chief Deanna Nolette has said that the portrayal of what's happening in the sexual assault unit is not accurate and is a gross oversimplification. Sexual assault cases are still being assigned, but the workload is being triaged based on a number of factors that we would traditionally use to triage those cases. So look, in essence, what we do know, what everyone seems to be in agreement about, is the sexual assault unit within the Seattle Police Department is currently fucked. Some think it's completely fucked, others think, it's fucked, but it's not that bad. But it's seemingly fucked, and there's no solution. I'm telling you now, there's no solution. The possible solutions would be throwing resources, throwing officers at the unit to combat the increase in crime. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know, the governments across the world are going to tighten their belts. I guarantee it. What the hell do I know? Nothing at all. But I guarantee I'll be right. The budgets are going to be decreasing across the board. There's going to be an increase of officers leaving the police force across multiple nations. It's just going to continue to happen. If these guys had a solution, this situation would not exist. They would have solved it already. They would have preempted it before it got to this stage. Those that are in authority don't have a handle on these situations. If they did, I would not be reading this article. They do not. And given that they do not have a handle on this situation, and given the world and the police department in general, police departments in general, have a whole host of issues going on, this is just going to continue to worsen and worsen. I'll tell you now, that's my opinion. Based on a bit of common sense, perhaps. But anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. Perhaps that's an interesting topic for you. Perhaps I've waffled on for too much. But either way, if you do think I've done a half-decent job, give me a like, comment, subscribe. Take care. I'm going to make some more videos tomorrow. Thanks.